Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another midweek chat with Jasmin. I'm your host, Jasmin Bryant, your brand visibility coach, helping coaches, speakers, network marketers, and authors just learn how to be visible and love it, boost your brand, boost your bottom line, and have more time with your family, your friends, and traveling and do all the things that you want to do that your boss won't let you do. So, welcome, everyone. Today, I am so excited to have Kay Sibson with us. She is a creative business consultant who empowers creatives and event pros with personalized, intuitive strategies for sustainable success. And one of the things that really stood out to me is your background in technical theater. I am a former theater person myself, an actress, and an all around drama queen. So I love it all. So welcome, Kay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that there's a former thespian here. Appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's always fun to meet someone who has a theater background because it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
And like I've done television and movies, and I still prefer theater to television. Like in front of the scenes because of the live audience and the energy.
Oh, yeah. No, I feel like everyone says that. They're like, "Yeah, it's cool," but, like, live.
Yeah.
It's just so they're so different, and then also, like, the challenges of that too are so different where you have to troubleshoot on the fly, and you're
You
like,
do.
"Alright, we just gotta make this work."
Yeah, you just have to roll with it, and it's exciting and nauseous making at the same time.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, all the memories are flooding back right now. I'm just like, "Oh, yeah, that one time." Yeah.
Right? Right,
That's
well,
another
before
podcast, another
so
show.
right, so that's another episode. We'll have to have you back.
Yeah.
Um, before I jump in, more than I've already jumped in, tell us a little bit more about you and who you serve.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's always such a loaded question, right? It's like, how do we just snippet this without making this the whole show? Yeah, so I have a background in theater. I've been doing that most of my life. I don't do it as much now. Especially since the pandemic, like everything's been up in the air and changed a lot. So, and I've changed a lot. So, yeah, I did stage management specifically, mostly in theater, and as you know, that translates to, like, everything else you do in life, so it's been quite a journey. I've done a lot of different things in my background. I had a wedding planning business, and I worked in offices and, really started that, entrepreneurial journey in, like, my day-to-day jobs because I ended up just kind of managing or working my way up in leadership and having to solve problems that no one else was able to or willing to solve. And so I have a very interesting background. But as far as what I do now, like I've just kind of tied all of that together. And I am a bit of I feel like consultant comes off like confusing to people. Like, what is that? I basically just like help strategize with business owners. So I help take them from where they are to the next level where they want to go, whatever that is for them. So it's not necessarily a cookie cutter plan or system. So I kind of pull in a lot of different methods, backgrounds, the tools,
Yeah.
frameworks from a lot of different things to make it make sense for the people that I'm working with. So, yeah, and really just to work on empowering them to also be able to navigate the unknowns of business themselves, not just with me. So, kind of creating those foundations and tools to really do business in a way that feels successful to them along the way, not just when they reach a destination.
No, that's great because like you said, like the foundations are so key and troubleshooting and problem solving, it is a skill not enough people have. But with your background, I mean, like you said, like when you're in a live setting like theater, you have to troubleshoot and problem solve on the fly because maybe a light has blown, maybe you know, anything. Your lead actor just, fell off the stage. Happened once, not to me, thank goodness. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, you've got to figure it out. And so I love that you help people to figure it out and help them be empowered to figure it out themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, theater really has been the foundation of everything I've ever done because it's just the filter that helped me shape and understand my own, like, natural giftings, right? To troubleshoot, to problem solve, to work on the fly without I mean, rehearsal's important, but, like,
Yeah.
when it's live, you know, you have your foundation of what you know, but then when that all gets, like, chucked out the window, what do you do? And it's not panic, you know, but that's a lot of people do panic, but thankfully I've, you know, been able to, have the resources and tools from theater to go, "Oh, like, let's just pivot here. This is how we can jimmy rig this to make it work for the next few scenes or the next
Yeah.
couple months of business," and kinda roll with it, so
No, that's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, it is a definite skill. I've got so many things I want to talk to you about.
Oh,
So I'm
great,
going to
let's go.
try to, right, but I'm going to try to focus.
Okay.
Focus.
Same,
Focus
I'll
is
try to
hard for me.
focus.
Focus is hard for me, I have to say. Um, so I do want to talk to you about your part of your journey, right? Because you mentioned that you were a stage manager, so you were behind the scenes,
Mhm.
and now you are the face of your business, the face of your company. So take us through what that was like, because I specialize in helping people to overcome their fear
Yeah,
of being on camera and being seen, being heard, and that is a true fear for so many women, especially.
yeah,
But when you're in business, and especially this day and age, digital business, your face is your brand a lot
yeah,
of times. So tell us about that journey, how it was for you, and where you are with it. And do you help your clients with that too?
yeah, wow, I'm so glad you asked that because it is such a big part of my story
Mhm.
is the actually being seen part, like, that is I mean, it's taken me a long time to get here, and now that I'm here, I was like, "Oh, duh, like, this makes sense." To, you know, even just have conversations like this would have been something I would have never thought of, like, 5 years ago, you know, like,
Mhm.
we haven't met in person, and here we are talking, like,
Yeah.
you know, it is, like, quite a shift, from who I was, so, growing up, like, when I was really young, I was, like, life of the party, like, very much okay being center of attention, I loved it, like, had, you know, most kids feel that way, right? And then, you know, puberty, whatever, like high school, I was also homeschooled and then transitioned to public school. So then there was like that whole shift and change for me. So then, you know, getting into theater, like, and all these big personalities around me. And while I have a big personality, I didn't always have the space to like get there. And, you know, when you're growing up, you're still learning and growing and you don't
Yeah.
really kinda go with the flow in some ways, and so, with my natural talents of, you know, like, paperwork even and, like, organization and just seeing the big picture and how all the pieces fit together, like in theater, I just kinda fell into, like, those, you know, the backstage stuff, and, it made sense, and I felt safe, you know, it felt safe there, and then, you know, over the last say probably like 5 years especially, like, so even just before the pandemic, like, really noticing a shift that, like and recognizing that, like, I didn't like being backstage necessarily. There was aspects I liked, but I wanted to be on stage, you know, like and I had done some stuff on stage, and I used to be in plays growing up, and, you know, like, there was a I haven't always been backstage, but actually admitting that to myself that I wanted to be seen and I wanted that, you know, was the first step, I think, was, like, acknowledging that, and when you get into business, you know, you don't always realize how much of you have to put out there with, you know, within limits, of course. You can't just hide behind your work, though, like, eventually that runs out, or you run into a problem and you have to, like, step out
Yeah.
and actually handle it from a front-facing, perspective, especially if you wanna grow as a business and a business owner. And so when it came to I mean, I did just that with my other business. I initially just kinda hid behind my work. I didn't have to put myself out there so much. I also had a business partner, so it was easy to just kind of, like, continue the same trajectory I had been on, but then when I got out on my own, I was like, "Oh, like, I have to get there." You know, I have to be able to do this kinda stuff and feel okay with it, and it was hard. At first, it was just, like, pushing myself to do it, but I realized looking back, it really I had to create safety in myself and, like, know that and accept myself exactly as I am right now or at that point before I could actually really share and be open and honest and have conversations like this. Um, in my business. So I think when it comes to working with my clients and helping them feel more seen in their own ways, obviously I'm not doing exactly what you do, but this is a part of it, right?
Yeah.
And stepping in that role of CEO in your own business, I would think it's really helping them see where their strengths are and playing to those. So it's not about following the same exact media marketing strategy, as everybody else. It's doing what feels comfortable first. Like you have to create that safety inside before you can really be able to do it outside.
Yeah. And you said something I think is very important. I want to make sure that people got that because, I mean, you said a lot of things that were very important,
So
but,
good.
but one of the things that really stood out to me was, you were saying that, when you were younger, you were the life of the party. You didn't have any, like, you didn't have that fear, right, when you were younger. And I think, again, I can only speak as a woman because I've been one for 49 years, but
Right.
you know, I think the lack of confidence that women have is learned. And
Mhm.
you were saying, as a teenager, there's so much judgment around growing up, and our bodies are changing, our minds are changing, everything is changing, and there's so much judgment, and we can tend to get drowned out by those bigger personalities that you were talking about. And and then people just become like this, inside of a shell, and they
Right.
don't want to. And I love that you were like, I don't want to be behind the scenes anymore. I made a choice to put myself back out there. I did it before, I can do it again.
Yeah.
And and you just had that bravery, and you got it out, and look at you now.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really being honest with yourself first, though. I mean, if you can stuff down those feelings of being like it not feeling right or being jealous, like I think jealousy is a great indication of something's not quite in alignment. Like you want something different or more, just
Yeah.
more of something. And it doesn't necessarily mean like, being the lead actress, on a stage. For me, it was actually just being on ensemble. For me, I was fine backstage and thrived, and I still kind of miss the backstage. Like I kind of love the action of it. So it's not like I hated being backstage.
Yeah.
Every time we got to the I apologize to keep talking about theater. It's just an easiest way to for like, communicate it. But like whenever we got to like the final dress rehearsal when everyone then was in costumes and makeup, and I was like, I'm in black. I wanna be in a dress too, and I wanna be like, feel whatever, and it wasn't always about being, like, pretty necessarily, like, make me a tree on stage, that's fine, but I wanted to be, like, in it in a different way. So yeah, making that decision, but and you're talking about judgment, and I think, one thing, like, for me, like, being a firstborn daughter, and I'm really wanting to, do everything right. And I
Yeah.
was told, like, not to completely, like, diss on the church or anything like that, but I was raised in a culture where women were supposed to show up a certain way, and so, like, trying to navigate that and dress a certain way and look a certain way all the time and really just not knowing who you are yet, it can be really like, that's where all that stuff is formed, and it's hard to break out of that.
Yeah, knowing who you are, that's the number one key, I think. Knowing who you are so that you can be that person on
Mhm.
camera or on stage or in your business. It's a lot to unlearn for some people,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
I think personal development, the first half of anything is unlearning first, so then you can read with what you know to be true for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so let's see, Yvette Hawkins, welcome. Someone just popped on the live, so I wanted to say hi. Um, and so she's at work, and I know that she is a budding entrepreneur. So this actually works really well for my next question for you is,
Alright.
like, you're passionate about helping women in business, right? And so what challenges do you find that they face when they're trying to be this creative CEO that is burning inside them, trying to get out and be a successful business person? Because sometimes it's two different sides of your brain, and they
Mhm.
don't always work together. So what challenges do you see in some of your clients, and how do you help them through that?
Oh, man. Um, as women especially, I think there's so many things. I mean,
Yeah.
we are all beautiful, complicated humans, and it's never just a black and white journey or just one thing, right? Like, we could have similar problems, but it's for very different reasons. So working through them can be a different ball game altogether. But, I think for women, I think it's really I think a lot of us struggle with, maybe doing it messy or doing it wrong.
Mhm.
We wanna have everything in lined up, perfect,
Oh.
ready to go, and
Mhm.
exactly the way it should be. We plan things out, especially as a planner, like, I totally am there. You try to plan ahead and think how it might all go wrong and hopefully goes right, and then we don't always, like, take the step. We don't know actually always do the thing, or we're waiting until it's perfect before we
Mhm.
actually execute, and I think doing it messy is, like, the first, like, I don't know, kind of exercise in a way, and it doesn't have to be a
Mhm.
big messy, it could just be, like, a little thing, like, it just do the post, do the thing, you know? And that can be really hard, and I think also, at least most recently, some of the women I work with is that they think, that they're gonna have the whole next 5 years figured out, and it's like, really, when you're working with your own, like, let's say, creativity or intuition, or you're starting something new, you really only have the next breadcrumb or 2, and you have to take action on those. You can't wait for the next 6 things to line up before you go and do the first one.
Yeah.
Um, so I think just the perfectionism, I think, is just a really big thing that comes up. And also, like, not giving ourselves a chance to learn from the messy, because that's
Mhm.
really where that growth happens, and you just kinda have to throw a dart sometimes and see what lands, and I know my business has changed, like, and evolved over just the last, couple years that it's been, so
Yeah.
it's not you're not gonna get it right. And the first time around, you might get certain parts of it right, but it really is like it's really a journey and not a destination. I think we're just treating it too much like a goal or a thing rather than like its own thing that's like living and growing and evolving.
Yeah. And you mentioned intuition. And I know that, you talk a lot about intuition in business and trusting your gut. And that can be a scary proposition for a lot of
Yeah,
people because we're not always allowed to trust our intuition
no,
or use it. And sometimes when you say, well, my gut tells me this, then you get smacked for it. So how do you help your clients learn how to use their intuition, trust their gut so that they can be successful in their business?
right. It really is a relationship, right? Like it's a process. I think everything is a process. And so I think it's about starting small. So when it comes to knowing yourself enough to know I like this, I don't like this, right? And so then when you're approaching something or creating a strategy, you have to kind of follow what feels good. And I think the more you follow the joy, the easier it is to make the harder decisions or like to realize, oh, this is for me, this isn't for me. I think excitement's probably the easiest way to follow that and practice it and get those reps in so that you understand what it feels like on bigger scales. If you have a to-do list and logically, this one thing should get done because it's due next week or in 2 weeks, right? But it's not like a have to, but in theory, you should get it done right now. But this other thing feels more exciting. Go do the exciting thing for a little bit and then go back to the other thing, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that, like, it starts with, things like that because for me, like, it took a lot of unlearning to even understand how to work with it more or trust that that's safe to do that. So as long as you're not putting yourself in a crunch, like where it feels really unsafe to do the thing that's exciting or feels better, um, then like what I would do is like I would push myself to do thing I don't wanna do because logically that makes sense. Let's do the
Yeah.
thing because that's what everyone says to do, or it's due in a couple weeks, so let's be smart about it, and every time I've ever pushed myself, literally every time, I've always have to go back and redo it for
Yeah.
whatever reason, whether it's I got a new idea, something else clicked better, or I ended up doing way more work than I needed to because someone else came in and did another part of it, or it wasn't even needed. And it's like every time I've actually just followed what feels best without feeling behind on anything, and still having that safety within my body, then it's been able to, you can work up to understanding quicker, I guess, what's actually going to be best for you outside of yourself too.
No, that's really, I think that's really good because I mean that safety to trust yourself
Mhm.
is it's so key because again, we just don't,
Mm-mm.
often enough. We just don't do it. And we can, have like this I don't even know what to call it, where maybe like shiny object syndrome, where we, follow this
Yeah.
person, follow that person, follow this person. And instead of taking like a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B, we'll go and try to do everything that this successful person says to do,
Yeah.
but it's not in alignment with us and
Yeah.
how we feel. But they're successful. I'm not as successful, so they must have the secret sauce. I'm going to do what they say. Yeah,
Right. Oh my gosh, that's such a big thing that, I had to unlearn really quick, and it's a big thing I really, like, talk about a lot too with my clients and on social media and everything, is that no one person has all the answers for you. Like, you have the answers, and the right teachers and the right things, like, the right frameworks, like, they can help unlock things for you and get you through the next couple steps, or they might be really well organized and make sense for you in the moment, but then if something happens or changes, or it doesn't feel good, or it stops working, then you have to be able to have those other things to fall back on, and that those other things come from you, right? And so to understand, oh, okay, this happened. How do I navigate this? And so that's where that empowerment to, really help clients along the way, not just tell them, oh, hey, this is how you should do it, which is part of it, but it's based off them and what they actually want. So, following that person that has a private jet, that's awesome. It shows you what's
yeah,
possible out there. And that's so great. But really you just want to have time with your family. You don't actually want to be running around the world all the time, like,
yeah,
so to follow someone exactly, what that looks like for success for them, or what we see as quote unquote success, right? Isn't maybe how it feels when they got there, or,
yeah,
it's hard to not put people on pedestals, but that is like a big theme in my life that I've had to work through myself. So it makes sense why we want the quick fix or the easy way. But I think the quicker we just realize that we have the answers and people can help us figure out things, they're great courses and consultants and coaches like that help us get to that point. But it comes back to that self understanding, like you were talking about.
yeah, yeah. And we don't know what's real and what's not when we're looking at folks on social media.
Oh my gosh, seriously. I mean, the FTC is, like, cracking down on stuff, like, and how things are marketed, but it is really hard, and when it's you know, everyone's talking about money and certain forms of success, it can be really hard to know what's real or know who the good people are. That's where like, it can be,
Yeah,
you can follow the wrong people for sure, and it's scary. It's hard to know what's authentic. But
yeah,
that's being seen, and these kind of conversations and the work that you do for people to really show themselves, that's gonna shine through and last longer than this other, like, more, I don't know, frivolous or, like, lofty success ideals.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So we're almost out of time, but I
I'm so
still have so
sorry.
many more. No, oh my God, no! This has been an amazing conversation. Are you kidding me? I could literally pick your brain like all day long. Um,
Anytime, anytime. You got my
I'm
email.
gonna I'm gonna hold you to that, Kay. I'm gonna hold you to
Okay,
it.
love it.
Um, so I do wanna ask about branding, like personal branding for the creative CEO.
Mhm.
How important is it, and how do you help your clients figure out what their personal brand is?
Yeah, I mean, I really focus on the strategy behind the strategy, or their brand, the person behind the brand, right? And make sure that they understand again who they are and what they're going for and what their goals are. And so when we talk about marketing or being seen, it really is. it starts with that safety of, okay, this is what I want. This is who I am. I don't like doing this. I do like doing this. And then just like pushing that stuff more or and flourishing the things that come naturally to them. So if
Mhm.
they're naturally a gifted writer, blogging should be your thing. Like that should be something that's standard. And that can be part of the brand, right? Like, oh, I'm a blogging, whatever, or this is a part of the brand. And I'm definitely not a brand expert by any means. I normally, when it comes to like the physical brand, I have people I recommend and,
Mhm.
send people to. But I think branding is so important because it's a part of who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And so while there are so many consultants out there, like I'm the only me. And so if
Yeah.
my brand looks different from it should look different from somebody else's. It shouldn't be the cookie cutter, what everyone else is doing. And the only way you can do that is if you really like lean into who you are and go from there. And it's not branding isn't just colors or how it looks or it can all be a part of it,
Yeah.
but it really is like I think congruency of what you're doing across the board, and the story you're telling with those things. So I think it comes back to again that self-awareness
Yeah.
and really just getting clear on how you want to show up in the world. And it's gonna evolve and change. Again, like, I think when people think about branding, they get really caught up on the logo or the thing, and that's part
Mhm.
of it, and it's so important to have something that, like, identifies you, or even how you dress for when you're on camera, and, like, all that stuff is all part of your brand, and it's super important, in thinking about what message you're giving, but, sometimes you just have to like, it's authenticity and being messy is sometimes, like, the greatest place to start,
Yeah.
while you're kind of building that, because 'cause you're not gonna really know what it's gonna be when you're starting or even what it might look like a year from now if you're already in it. It could
Mhm.
definitely shift and change and depending on what seasons of business you're in. So, I think it's just really important to like, have check-ins with yourself and understand, "Okay, like, are we still in alignment with this? Are these core values still the same? Are these this?" And that all plays into how your brand is and how it's presented in the world.
Yeah, and it reminds me of I was talking with a friend the other day about the I've been trying for weeks to come up with the name for this exclusive retreat that I'm having for
Exciting.
coaches. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Can't wait.
Yes.
But but I've been trying to come up with a name for it, and I threw out, I don't know, 80 bajillion names. And one of
Right.
them, he's like, well, why did you choose that? I'm like, well, because I have, this particular program is called that. He's like, you can change the program. You can change the
Yeah.
program name. This doesn't have to be what it is, in 6 months, just because this is what it is today.
Right.
You can change all of this. And it's like, oh, yeah, I can change this.
Yeah.
And like you said, you evolve. And even over the past 2 years, I've evolved in
Mhm.
my branding to refine it, to be
Yeah.
more what I perceive my audience to want and who my audience is and all of that. You change, you ebb, you flow.
Right, but you mentioned permission to do that. I think we forget that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're business owners and we have the reins, but sometimes it's too many decisions or too many things, and we forget the simple stuff of like, "Oh, I can
Mhm.
just do whatever I want." I
Yeah.
can just change it. That's fine. And maybe you low key announce it to your email, like, "Hey, by the way, this is now gonna be called this." Alright, cool. But like, or just roll it out, and I think we try to see again too far down the road
Mhm.
and base all our decisions off, like, what we think 10 years from now will be. And you're like, "No, like,
Right.
right now this feels good, and it might change, and it's okay if it does. It doesn't mean, like, it wasn't valid when it first rolled out or it wasn't good enough. I think it's
Yeah.
now just to make it, yeah, come together in a way that makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think that is an amazing place to leave our chat. I just dropped in the social media chats, and I think it's on YouTube. May not be in a couple of in the Facebook groups, but I dropped in your link for your offer for the folks who are watching, whether you're watching live or the replay. is it a quiz? What type of
Yeah.
creative CEO you are?
Yeah, it's a free quiz, it's BuzzFeed style, so it's with
Ooh.
pictures, and it's just fun because why not? But at the end, you have the option whether or not to put in your email. Either way, you get an answer, so there's no, like, wall behind that. But I created, like, 5 different CEO types, and there's some, like, strengths and weaknesses of all of them, but they're all beautiful in their own way, and then there's some, like, if you enter in your email, there is, like, actual advice, and you can get the results of all of them because since it's a silly, kind of fun quiz, you might not resonate with the answer, because it's picking pictures. It's not who you are as a person. So if you do enter an email, you can have all of the answers, and then each month, so it's not a weekly thing, it's just monthly, send out some monthly advice for different ways of approaching, maybe some, things that are coming up in your business or maybe some steps to take to be more in alignment. So
Oh, that's awesome. I love quizzes. I'm gonna take it.
I do too. It's fun.
And pictures are even better because I read all day for all
Yeah.
day. So if I can just click a picture, I am in. I am
Well, then I got you set, girl.
Woo! And for anyone who's watching who is not already part of my world, so like anyone who's watching from your social media platforms or who's new to mine, I also dropped in the 5 keys to beat camera shyness. So if you just click the link beatcamerashyness.com, you'll be able to click that and download.
Wish I had
Boom.
that when I was starting, but
Well, yeah, like, yeah, that's awesome to have for sure. I
yeah.
got distracted because maybe it's the UPS delivery, I don't know, but something just clunked outside my door.
Oh,
Um, I don't know
it's
what
a
it
gift
was.
for you.
Hopefully. Either that or it's, I don't know, hate mail. I don't know. Something just big and loud just happened down here. I don't know. I don't know. If it wasn't UPS, then hopefully whatever's in that box isn't breakable.
Yeah, good luck.
All right. So I am sorry about that. Um, Kay, thank you so much for being part of this chat. I enjoyed you so, so very much. And I know you guys at home have enjoyed her as well. And if you're watching the replay, please feel free to type in, any questions or comments that you have because, we're here to help you grow and you can click Kay's link so that you can find out what type of creative CEO you are. There are 5 types, right? 5?
Yep, yeah.
Yeah. So you can find out, who you are so that you can get your messages right and be visible and be paid. So,
Yes.
Kay, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
I had a great time. I had a great time. And we'll see.